and he said to the Saudi government, "It seems to me as though I'm alive." The Saudi newspapers published this article, which I read with my own eyes. This particular student had studied in Minnesota, I think, in the early 1990s. And in 1995, perhaps, he had reported both to the local police and to the Saudi embassy in the United States that someone had broken into his apartment and stolen his passport. Whoever did that used that passport to hijack his identity, and so they could put him on board the aircraft. And so the planning for September the 11th, 2001 started many, many years before. Which reminds me, I must tell you that when I arrived in New York in April 1991, through Allah's leave and kindness, within a matter of 6 months in New York, I had already been pushed to a very high-profile position, very well known in the entire New York metropolitan area. And then in November 91, when I had gone to the State University of New York in Stony Brook, someone broke into my apartment and stole only my passport. That's all. So if ever you get the news that Imran Hosein blew up the moon, you'll understand the background. They're holding it. They have not as yet used it. But the more I talk about it, the less likely that they can use it. My passport, therefore my identity. Why so many Saudis? It's suspicious. And why these middle-of-the-road Saudis? The answer is because Saudi Arabia, the government of Saudi Arabia, has a friendly relationship with the United States. In fact, there is something common between the state of Saudi Arabia and the state of Israel which would surprise you. They are sisters. The same forces who work for the establishment of the state of Israel are the same forces who work for the establishment of the state of Saudi Arabia. The same forces who have kept Israel alive today and guaranteed Israel's security are the same forces who have kept Saudi Arabia alive today and has guaranteed Saudi Arabia's security. And when the state of Israel is to be destroyed, Saudi Arabia also goes down into the garbage bin. They're sisters. But at the moment, the friendly relations and the good press which Saudi Arabia receives in the media in the United States of America, and the fraternal relations between the government of Saudi Arabia and the government of the United States stands in the way of those who attacked America on September the 11th. In what way? I said to you last time I was here that the United States cannot attack Iraq until a particular moment arrives. And I gave you some homework. I ask you to think. Iraq does not pose any threat to the United States. It does not pose any threat to the state of Israel. The Israelis have to be digging and digging and digging for a strategy to be able to make Iraq look threatening. So now they're coming up with all kind of fancy theories about biological weapons and weapons of mass destruction and so on. It's just dust in the eye. Well, and if Israel does not pose any threat, why all of this hullabaloo, all of this shouting from the mountain tops about attacking Iraq. And who, in military strategy, which commander-in-chief, which country which is about to wage war, which country will announce for 1 year in advance, 2 years in advance, we're going to be attacking you? And then publish in the newspapers all kinds of alternative strategies, how to attack. It sounds suspicious. Sounds like the attack on Iraq is not for military purposes. Sounds like the attack on Iraq is for political purposes, so that political dividends might accrue from it. What are those political dividends? That is at the heart of the beginning of my talk tonight. I do not want to return to the lecture I gave last year, in which I began with the ruling state of Britain and identified that with the hadith, a day like a year. The hadith of Tamim ad-Dari. Are you shaking your heads? Imam? I'm going to have to repeat that lecture now?
Yeah, like a day.
Yeah?
Yeah, like a month.
A day like a year?
Yeah, like a month.
Okay, if you didn't hear that lecture, we don't have the time tonight to repeat it, so the tape recording is downstairs. Abu Rahman has it downstairs. The hadith is a day like a year, a day like a month, a day like a week when Dajjal is released, okay? And we identify the island of Britain with a day like a year, and how did we arrive at that? We're not going to do that tonight, because we did that already. And then a day like a year ends, and it is followed by a day like a month, and one ruling state gave way to another. Britain is no longer the ruling state in the world. The United States of America now becomes the ruling state in the world. And in the same way that there was this mysterious, puzzling, baffling relationship between the island of Britain and the Holy Land, starting from the Balfour Declaration, so too now you have this mysterious, mystifying, baffling relationship between the United States of America and the State of Israel, which was so clearly apparent in Durban, World Conference on Racism and Racial Development, Racial Discrimination, when Israel walked out of the conference because the whole world combined to condemn Israel for its atrocities on the Palestinian people. Guess who walked out with Israel, holding on to Israel's coat's tail? Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam. So this puzzling, mystifying relationship between the second ruling state and Israel. The first ruling state in Israel, Britain and Israel. The second ruling state, the United States and Israel, is explained by a day like a month. And then we said that a day which is like a month is now coming to an end. And the September 11 attack on America is in many respects a parallel to another attack which had occurred many years earlier. There's a parallel between the two. That one was in the summer of 1914, okay? The assassination of the Grand Duke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo. And that attack, that act of terrorism, launched the First World War, the big war. Similarly, September the 11th, the same forces at work in the summer of 1914 are the same forces now at work, September the 11th. With that attack in Sarajevo, Britain, which was the ruling state in the world, now during the First World War, has to yield to another ruling state, namely the United States of America. If you don't understand, go and read your history. Now with September the 11th, the attack is now on the United States to bring down the United States as the ruling state in the world. But in the process of bringing it down, the United States have some very important work to do for Israel. I can identify tonight two very important things that the United States has to do for Israel. There are many more, but there's no need to do more than simply two. In order for Israel to succeed the United States as a ruling state in the world, not only must the US economy collapse and the US dollar collapse, and when the US dollar collapses, it brings down the whole world of paper money with it, and if you don't believe me, just wait. Just wait. This is going to be the topic, Blacktown, Wednesday night. Do please come on Wednesday night, because that is the most important lecture of all. Islam and the international monetary system. Please come on Wednesday night for that lecture. Not only must the United States collapse its economy and its money, but in addition, Israel has to wage a big war, which even non-Muslim political analysts are now anticipating. A big war. Even Jews now within Israel, I'm getting emails, even Jews within Israel, Jewish academics who are up in opposition to the Sharon government, they are now understanding that there's something big about to happen. And they're warning the world about it. Of course, it's too late now. Israel has to wage this big war, which is already planned long ago. And the territory of the state of Israel will dramatically expand. And the Palestinian problem will be solved because they'll be exported out. That is the massive human rights crime that the Israeli academics are now anticipating and warning the world about. But in addition, in order for Israel to become the ruling state in the world, not only must she take control of all of this territory, she must also control the oil of the Middle East. Saudi oil, Iraqi oil, Kuwaiti oil, Gulf oil. But I don't see Israel taking Iranian oil. No. And you'd want to ask me why. Yes, you'd want to ask me why. In the question and answer session, not now. I don't see Israel touching the Iranian oil. Now that's going to be a very, very important event in world affairs. If Israel takes control of this oil, Israel will have her hands on the throat of the world. Not so much Britain and the United States, because Britain has North Sea oil. The United States has a lot of oil, sufficient to meet its domestic consumption. And so who is going to have Israel at their throats? The answer, Europe, Japan, and the rest of the world dependent upon Middle East oil, but particularly Europe and Japan. Which is why at this moment you will notice a lot of strange noises coming out of Europe in hostility to the United States. Because the Europeans are beginning to open their eyes and now beginning to slowly understand what we knew all along. Yes. This is why the German minister made a statement concerning Mr. Bush and acting in a way like Hitler acted. It's not by accident. But Israel has a PhD in deception, because it's Dajjal at the back of this, the mastermind.